Show. It is Wednesday, the 3rd of January, 2023, and we are here ringing in the new year with our first guest of the new year, our friend and patriot, General Michael Flynn. It is just such a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today. Welcome to the show, General. You're on Grace Time. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you so much for having me. I didn't realize I was the first show of the new year for you. That's great. I'm honored.
I think it's a good sign. Because we've got a lot going on already coming into this year. There have been some major bombs that have dropped in the last 48 hours, even since the crazy ball drop in Times Square. And so we really want to just talk about that. We want to talk about some of the things that you've been doing, particularly fifth generation warfare. But I think the thing that's on everybody's mind right now is something that you reposted on X, on Twitter. Your colleague Boone Cutler reposted it, and that is the document of the Declaration of Military Accountability. And I think that this is something that maybe is not getting enough attention. Could you talk to our listeners about that and explain what it is and why you reposted it with such urgency yesterday?
Yeah. So let me start off kind of at the 100,000 foot level for your audience, okay? The idea of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity, right? What does that really mean? That's a masked, like a mask that you wear, masked acronym or phrase for basically for a cover for racism. Okay, DEI is really all about racism, and that it is an attack on the character of a man or a woman for who they are and what they represent in their own way, in their own person, whether they are willing to work hard and get up every morning and sacrifice and be disciplined in their life to be able to earn or to be able to do the things that they want to do. That's what DEI is not about. That DEI is not about sort of like what Martin Luther King says. We should be judged by the the character of the content of our character than the color of our skin, right? That's the 100,000 foot level of DEI. DEI was just destroyed with the resignation of the Harvard University president, right? The very storied and historical Ivy League, the top of the Ivy League, Harvard University, the president of President Gay, former President Gay, resigned, and in her resignation letter, she uses the word hate and uses the word racism. She is a product of DEI. Okay, so that's the 100,000 foot level, DEI, because what this letter that is signed off by, I think it's 231, what I call grassroots or rank and file members of our military. And it's just, it's unbelievable. And please post the letter on your website for your readers to read it. I encourage everybody to read it. But what this is about is, to come down from where I just talked about maybe the 50,000 foot level is our military is having itself be force fed DEI inside the culture of our military, our entire military. Why? Because our military is the last bastion of honesty, of authenticity, of true leaders, particularly leaders that are at the sergeant or chief petty officer level, right? The rank and file, the young officers that we have, the woke corporate leaders that we have at the 3 and definitely 4-star level. I mean, for them to sit there and think that things are rosy in the United States military, while we forcibly feed our military this whole notion of DEI, DEI has nothing to do with training, readiness, preparedness, fighting, and winning our nation's wars. Nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with changing the culture, changing the behavior of our military, right? So our military then complies with the way the progressive left in this country is wanting to essentially change the entire culture of our country. So let's go down to the next level. The next level down is how egregious was COVID, introduction into our military, right? Into the ranks of our military. And so a lot of people, and there was some on our X space the other night that we had, there are a number of people who are vax injured, right? And these are debilitating injuries, and also many thousands, actually, military that were thrown out of our military because either the military didn't want to hear about their religious beliefs, right? Because a lot of them said, hey, my religious belief, my religious belief system doesn't allow me to take this thing that has these elements inside of the ingredients inside of the shot. It doesn't allow me to take it. And the military, for the most part, said, too bad, so sad, you're out. And now after, a year and a half, the military puts out a letter a little while ago, maybe a month or two ago now, that said, oh, we're so sorry. Essentially, he said, we're so sorry, we screwed up. We really want you to come back. Okay. And the reason why they want you to come back, mom and dad of America and all the young people that are maybe listening to this show, the reason why they want you to come back because they know that they screwed up. But even in their mea culpa letter that they put out, they failed to go to the level that they needed to, right? Yeah. First of all, it wasn't a letter that was an apologetic letter. It was like, we really, those that were pushed out by COVID, and I don't have the letter in front of me, so I'll screw it up. But, those that were put out by COVID, we really like you to come back now and we'll do certain things. I mean, no, these are people that they hurt physically, they hurt mentally, they hurt, certainly they hurt their belief in their idea of service to this nation. And they pushed them out of the military, people who wanted to serve and who were willing to give their lives for our country. And yet, Mary, they pushed them out for the wrong reasons. And now when they ask them to come back in, they're not saying, look, we're going to reinstate you with full pay. We're going to give you full back pay. We're actually going to, for those of you that would have been promoted, we're going to promote you up to the next rank. Right? For those of you that had families, we're going to make sure that your families are moved from wherever you went to. We're going to move you back into housing for a period of time until you get yourself settled. I mean, no, they didn't do any of these things that they should have done. That's what a leader does. A leader sits there and thinks, okay, we had a significant emotional event occur. We incurred that on these soldiers and these military personnel that were willing to give their lives for our country, and we forced them out, and many of them have been out for a year. Instead of really having an exceptional plan to reinstate them, they had a really, excuse my Irish on this show, but they had a really shitty plan to bring them back in and to offer them the things that they should have offered them. And it's so sad, it breaks my heart when I think about what I talked about at the 100,000 foot level, what I talked about at the 50,000 foot level with this DEI, what I know happened with COVID in our military, and what I know is happening now. It is destroying the fabric of the one institution that remains honest, okay? And that's the institution of our military, of our uniformed military, but it's actually down below the deck plates, they call it in the Navy, right? The deck plates is where all the muckety mucks are at, or all the admiral, all the leaders are, right? Down below the deck plates, down in the bowels of an organization where the privates, the seamen, the sergeants, the corporals, the staff sergeants, the first sergeants, the lieutenants, majors. I mean, those levels, those are the ones that came into our military with this very esoteric, whatever the right word is, this belief that I wanted to serve my country, right? And I'm willing to give my life up for my country. I'm willing to go and do the nation's bidding. And we killed them. We hurt them. We hurt them badly. And for those that are vax injured, they still don't want to admit that they were injured by the vax. They're trying to tell them that, well, no, you had heart problems. Well, guess what? I went into the military, and you know what they do before you come into the military, before they let you really get in? They do a full physical. And they determine all the things that you have, all the ailments that you have, and all the things that your family brings with you. And then when you get out of the military, if you say, well, look, the military caused me to have hearing problems. I have severe hearing problems. The military caused me to have knee, hip, hand, elbow, shoulder problems. I have all those, right? Because of all of the things that I did, jumping out of airplanes to working hard in the military, being deployed overseas, and being confronted with all kinds of crazy stuff. All those things that we do, the military is not. And when I say the military, it's the leadership. It's from the Secretary of Defense on down to the civilian leaders, and then those uniform, principally 4-stars that are our Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Chief of Naval Operations, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and our Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, right? There's 2 there, right? And the Chairman, unlike the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the principal military advisor to the President of the United States, not the Secretary of Defense, right? The Secretary of Defense is an advisory role, but the chairman is. So for the chairman to sit there and go, oh yeah, this is fine, right? What we're doing to our military. That also means this letter. So this letter requires a response. Now, what I'm concerned about is how our military will respond to it, because you're going to have people who are going to play the tough guy and tough gal at the top, and they're going to go, we can't let these people get away with this, right? Because some of those people that signed that letter, they're still in the military. They're on active duty.
Yeah, can we break down the letter a little bit? Because people who are active duty, but also people retired, like Lieutenant Pete Chambers, he's been sharing this. Boone Cutler. I mean, there are many, many people like you who are very active and very involved still. But you're saying, the people who are active duty, some of these people signed on to this letter. What is the letter? What's the gist of it? Because it is quite long. It reads to me like the Declaration of Independence in some ways, because it's the fact that people have gotten to the point where the grievances are so egregious that they have to be addressed.
Yeah. And so a couple of things before I get to the letter. I know that you have audience members who are, sending in, cards and letters there on the text thing. From where I'm standing, I can't see that. So if you can pull a couple out of there, and I'll answer them, or I'll answer their statements. But
thank you.
The letter itself is a letter of certainly emotion, but it's also a letter of fact. And it is a letter that has deep, deep meaning for everyone serving currently, and everyone who has served, who continues to pay attention to what is happening to the ranks of our military. I mean, our military is at risk right now because of all of these things addressed in this letter. And you're right, it does sort of read like another Declaration of Independence, sort of, the tyranny of what it is that we're facing by these decisions that are and in our military, the decisions are principally by civilians, right? There's civilians who are appointed to run our Defense Department. We adhere to the civilian leadership, right? We're not like some of these third or fourth world countries where the military is running the whole damn show. No. So you have people inside the military and people who are outside now, as veterans, serving, but still doing things, still active. Like I want to be active. I still feel like I have something to offer to this country. That's why I got involved in politics. It's something that, I look back, I should, talk about, a horrific moment of, and it's not misjudgment. I wanted to stay in service to this country because I believe in it. That's what these people that signed off on this letter, they believe in this country so much. And this is not really a letter to the Secretary of Defense. Or the President of the United States. This is a letter to America. Yeah. This is a letter that they wrote to the American people. And the more we can expose this letter to the American people, because every American, whether you served in the military or not, whether you even had a sibling or a cousin or a nephew or a grandfather that served in the military, if you read this letter, you're going to say, oh my God, this is me. They're talking about me. They're talking about how I feel, about what is happening to my life. Because, a funny thing, Mary, is that all of us serve in some capacity. Some people Some people do it very quietly, but all of us serve in some capacity. If we get up in the morning and we go out to work, in some job, we're serving others, right? We're serving others. Even if you own the business, even if you're a small business owner, all of us are serving. Well, these people that signed off on this letter and this letter are servants of every single one of us. And that's what we tend to forget. We forget that people serving in the military are not just some soldier or some Marine out there. They are servants of the American people. And so that's who the letter is actually going to. It's going to the American people to tell the American people, we who are serving you, this is how we feel. This is what we see. This is what is going on inside of our military, right? Not the Department of Defense's military, not Joe Biden's military, but the American people's military. And if we don't listen, if we don't pay heed, if we don't, meaning, what does pay heed mean? It means actually do something about it. Write your congressman, read the letter and write your congressman. Write something, get involved somehow in your communities to say, look, this sounds to me like our country, our military, and if our military is destroyed by the breakdown of its culture that we have created, we have taken centuries to create this culture in our military, and it is being rapidly, attacked by this DEI nonsense, this critical race theory nonsense that's being force-fed into our military right now. The idea of vaccines, which we know now through the defense medical establishment, right? The DMED data, what they call DMED data. I mean, we know that this vaccine is actually injuring people at a much, much greater pace and at a rate that is just unfathomable. We cannot sustain a military by continuing on with this egregious health attack against a force that's supposed to be trained and ready to win our nation's wars.
And just to be clear, I want, just for the fact checkers who are going to come in on this, you mentioned the DMED database. These are documented cases. This is not opinion from General Flynn. This is documentation that many people have sourced. I know that Dr. Lee Dundas has been very active in finding this and disseminating it, but
there's so much data. There is so much data that is now available. Yeah. It's not just DMED data, which is really accurate. It's really accurate. In fact, I'm shocked, and a lot of it kind of leaks out now because they used to put that out because it's public information, because it's our army, it's our military, right? But now they try to hide it, and they're like, you got to find these different reports and you got to put it together yourself. So the fact checkers can do whatever they want. I don't really care about the fact checkers anymore. What I care about is this country. I care about the direction that our country is being taken, and I care about the fact that we are moving so rapidly towards a communist country. I mean, we could find out in another year that we're not the United States of America anymore. We are the United Socialist States of America. I mean, when we talk about the global alliance that is opposed to the United States of America, and we have people inside of our own government and definitely in the institutions of this country, whether it's the corporate institutions, the educational institutions, and even the religious institutions in many cases, that are opposed to what America has always been, and they want this new sort of socialist communist trend that we are heading towards. I mean, that to me, that's not the country that I served, right? That's not the idea and the ideals that I serve. That's not the Constitution that we still have, that is being, ripped to shreds by these people that are involved in this lawfare madness that people like the current or the former President Trump is involved. I mean, this is sheer madness, the kinds of things that are going on, and we cannot continue down this path without something giving. And this letter, back to this letter, I think that the letter is such an important message by, it's like I said the other day. This is not a letter signed by a bunch of generals and admirals. Letters that get signed by a bunch of generals and admirals they're like the letter that was signed by 51
The TV
intel
generals.
professionals, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of it. You kind of go, okay, generals and admirals. All right, what are they saying now? What do they have to say? This is signed by people that are active duty members of our military, and signed by retired and those that are not retired but certainly served,
right,
and are now, we all consider ourselves veterans. So it's such a powerful message, and I think that it goes well beyond even the idea that COVID caused, or the problems that COVID caused, right? I mean, it's past that. It's the culture. It's the cultural attack, the cultural assault on who we are as a country, who we are as an institution of defense, and who we are as a military, an active or a reserve or National Guard, those that serve in uniform, who we are as military members, and what we signed up to do. We signed an oath of office, and we're adhering to our oath of office. And that will always get you fact checked for me. I mean, because people go crazy on me.
And the morale piece is so big, General Flynn. I was just watching, I watch World War II videos with my dad. He's 86, and he had 3 brothers in the war. And so, we're watching interviews with, soldiers who were in the Pacific and on the ships. And just to hear their account of the brotherhood that they had, of the fact that they would do anything to protect the ship, to protect the lives of all of their brothers on the carrier. This is something that I think is lost largely on a lot of the American people now, because the military has been so vilified and watered down. Yeah,
it has been. And also, remember, we have, I think the numbers right now are somewhere between 1 and 2% of the American people actually serve in the military, all forms of the military, reserve, National Guard, and active. So we don't have a draft. We don't have a must serve. We don't even have a culture of serving necessarily in our military, in our armed forces, within the fabric of our society, because it's kind of like, well, if you can't do anything else, go serve in the military, right? If you can't make it somewhere else, you can't, go serve in the Army or something like that. I mean,
get your tuition paid.
Yeah, I mean, these are people that are willing to give their lives to this country. So my father was a World War II veteran, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran. One served in Europe, and one served in the Pacific.
Amazing.
And my father and my grandfather.
And your brother is currently serving.
My brother currently serves in the Army, in the military, and he has a significant role out in the Pacific, facing the Chinese. So
General Charles Flynn.
When I look at things and I look at what's happening to the country, I really, I want to wake up and go, oh, okay, everything's going to be fine. And I want to sprinkle fairy dust on your audience and go, poof, don't worry, folks.
Right.
We're going to get through this, and everything will be okay. Okay. You can sit at home and do nothing. No, this is not a time to sit at home and do nothing. This is a coup attempt, and with American characteristics. Okay. And we are experiencing a war, like a world war, just like we just mentioned about World War II or World War I. We're experiencing, World War III, if you want to put a number to it. It is a cultural war that we are involved in. It has components it has physicality, it has intellectual, it has emotional. It definitely is a spiritual, probably the greater component of this war is the spiritual war that we're facing, because this is good versus evil. I've always said that the sobering reality is that evil exists, and it exists all over the world, and it exists right here in the United States of America. As good as I want people to be, as much as we like to see the good in people, there are evil people out there, and frankly, we have evil people serving in our government right now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean that.
And we have a question from our listeners, but before we do that, I want to transition here. You actually did transition for us to talking about war, because the warfare that we are in is largely information war, and you and Boone Cutler have so far published 2 books on that. Yeah. Oh, you've got them right there. I have them too here. here, General.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, thank you. And we're about to. So right now, Boone and I are in the process of writing. We're in the process of writing session 3. Session 3 is going to come out pretty soon, and session 3 will be about religion. It'll be fifth generation warfare, and the whole idea of religiosity or religion and how religion plays in this war that we are involved in right now. So we're doing some interviews of some pretty significant people, and we're going to gather that. We're going to put that together. We've already got the makings of another great. And we purposely made these session 1, right? Fifth generation warfare, session 1. This is the sort of the foundation. And then session 2 is artificial intelligence. Every one of us is being bombarded, all of our children, you and I, bombarded by artificial intelligence. So how do you operate within that? The next one will be about religion, because religion is a major aspect of this spiritual warfare that we are facing. And when I think about, remember, there's a lot of countries on the planet that don't have Christianity, that don't believe in a higher being, right? I mean, a communist country, they believe in themselves, right? They believe in their leaders.
The state.
I mean, and they don't have a foundation of Christianity. And mainly, frankly, where you don't have that strong set of values and faith that comes from that belief system, those countries are some of the worst places to live on the planet. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. They just are. So, I mean, if you want to go around the world and start touching on countries, I'll tell you a little bit about each one, because
let's do that. I want to let my listeners know here that there is a link on the screen. You can purchase these books either individually or in a bundle directly from General Flynn's website at generalflynn.com. If you use promo code Mary Grace, you're going to get free shipping on that, and you can get those directly to your mail. You don't have to go through the big tech sites to order this book. In fact, we encourage you not to do that. Go directly to the website that is up here on your screen. The QR code is there. All you have to do is scan it. And we are live on multiple platforms here, and it's also linked in my emails. If you go to marygracemedia.com, get on my email list, you will get this in every email you get from me. It's in the Rumble notes. Like, there's no way you can't find this link, everybody.
And for people to know, because I know you won't do this, but I want people to know that this benefits Mary Grace. It benefits her ability to be able to get her message out. We have to do these things, right? We've got to. So, whatever the slash is, Mary Grace. I mean, help you, right? And so your audience help you, because this helps me. It does. It sells books, and it lets me get around this country, so I don't have to charge people, ungodly amounts of money for me to travel to places. I mean, right now I'm at war. I consider myself in one of these postures. And like a stance, like a football player has a 3-point stance, right? He stands there and is ready to go. I mean, I'm in my stance right now, because I look at my country and I'm saying, God, we're losing this thing.
Tell us about Europe. You said, because I know that you've spent time there, you spent time in Eastern Europe. People are lecturing Americans all the time about how superior Europe is, European culture, European society. And you've been there. You've been in the Middle East. You've actually helped run democratic elections in Iraq.
Right.
Give us an idea of what it's like, because most of the countries in Europe are socialist, and people don't get that. They think it's all perfect. Everybody gets health care, et cetera, et cetera. Give us an idea of a country that you think Americans have idealized that really is not a good place to be.
And also in Afghanistan, helping run elections in Afghanistan, which we ran elections in a combat zone in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we did it in one day. And under fire in a combat.
How did you do that? How did you do it?
By having the leadership that was there at the time. We were given that mission, and we organized like the military does very well when it has the right leadership. And we organized. We went set up all around the country, both Iraq and Afghanistan, and we ran elections. And from those elections, they chose their leaders, right? And we helped do the counting alongside the people of those countries, Iraq and Afghanistan, and the outcomes were known within 24 hours. So in a combat zone.
in a backward in a third world country. And so let's talk about elections and the military, because there's so much speculation coming into this election, and I do, as you know, there's an open invitation for you to come back on the show as we go up to this election, because I think the people really will welcome your leadership and direction on this. But there's talk of like no election in the United States. There's talk of like the military stepping in to run the elections. Just from a practical, realistic, feet on the ground perspective, what is the likelihood that the government in the U.S. could run this election in 2024 to ensure that we have a fair election?
Yeah, so because I do want to address your question about Europe, but I can see a scenario where the government just decides, well, or creates an emergency. We've had members of the World Economic Forum already talk. Klaus Schwab's already said there's going. He said the likelihood of having a large-scale cyber event, right? I think that was the words or the phraseology that he used. A global cyber event. So what does that mean? And why would he talk about something like that? And why is it that our country has to, number one, listen to a guy like that, and number two, we have so much capability in this country to be able to stop that kind of a emergency. But there are scenarios that I can see that would lead this government that we currently are led by to basically not having an election or creating an emergency to cause a set of conditions to where the election is run by somebody who should not be running it. I mean, elections in our country by the Constitution are run by the states. That's it's the whole idea of state sovereign rights. Right. And states can do this as long as states are fair about the elections, right? I mean, that they allow for a count. They don't have voter rolls with people who are deceased or people who live in 300 names in a 1,200 square foot mobile home somewhere. I mean, these are the kind of nonsensical things that we have right now in our elections. So one of the ways that your audience can get involved is to get out there and in your counties and clean up your voter rolls, so you don't have dead people voting. You don't have people living in apartment complexes where 200,000 people show up to vote from an apartment complex that can only hold like 50 or 60, right? Yeah. So I do think that I can see that. I hope that it's not the case. I don't want it to be the case. I want us to get to a fair election. I just can't see those in power wanting to have a fair election. I can see them. Let's have another election like we just had in 2020, right. And we're all fighting it out in the courts afterwards, and we're all going, oh my God, and we've lost. Okay, we've lost. On your question of Europe, because I think it's important.
Well, I think it's important. I just want to follow up on this. I'm going to do a Steve Bannon. Just about the military. So is there any scenario in which our military, meaning the true military, the good guys, would run a fair election for us, like what you did?
Nope. Okay. Nope. No, and not going to happen. Our military, again, people get confused that our military can go off and do their own thing. No.
Okay, so it has to be under civilian.
The military follows the direction and decision making by our political leaders. Okay. That's the culture of our military. That's the way our military is and should be run. Is our political leaders, our political masters are the ones that decide, because it's we the people that elect those people, right, to go into those jobs, namely the president of the United States. So there's not going to be some, group of military on white horses that are going to show up and do anything. People need to stop thinking like that, because it just doesn't. It keeps people from actually doing what they should be doing, which is getting involved in their local communities. Okay. And can the military do things? Yeah, sure. The military can do a lot of things and is very capable of doing things. And particularly, and domestically, should the military do anything? That depends. It depends on what the president of the United States sees as the criteria or the conditions that are unraveling in our country, where the military would have to, the military has been used a lot inside of the United States of America. I mean, they've been used for riots out in Los Angeles. They've been used for a disaster recovery in Florida. I mean, the military gets used for a lot of different things in the United States. People that think, that I'm out there talking or asking for the military to be involved in anything. They don't know what they're talking about. What we have seen is our military can get involved in things that our political masters, their political masters will ask them to do. Now, what those things that get asked are, who knows at this point? That's all speculation.
Okay.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to avoid anything. I want to go back to your question about Europe.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that look at Europe and go, "Oh, Europe is great." Well, and then you know what? Go live in Europe. Go live in Europe. There's a reason why Hungary and places like Poland have been adamant about not allowing illegals to invade their country, because it changes the society. It changes the culture. They don't assimilate. They commit massive amounts of crime. I mean, when we think about places like France, Spain, Italy, the Balkans, the whole of the Balkans, Kosovo, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, Greece. When you look at the countries like the Dutch country, if anybody's paying attention to Geert Wilders, right, who's the new prime minister for the Netherlands. I mean, listen to what he's saying. People are going to go, "Oh, he's a white racist." Okay.
Yeah.
He's a Nazi. They're going to call him all kinds of names. But if you listen to what he says, he actually makes a lot of sense. And he's welcoming everybody, but you got to assimilate. If you're going to come into my country, into our country, you've got to do the following things, right? You've got to adhere to our laws. You've got to adhere to what it is that we believe in, because you want to be a part of, in this case, the Netherlands, right?
So logical.
Same with the American people. I'm not anti-immigration. I mean, I love recognizing people. When I go around and I talk to large audiences or small audiences, I always ask to recognize people who are there, who left another country. Imagine leaving another country and coming to the United States, because the country that they left in, that they grew up in, was basically destroying them, right? And so they leave their country. It's just not like leaving, the state of Rhode Island and going to Florida. This is leaving Europe. And principally, a lot of Europeans left to come to the United States. And now that they're here in the United States, they're going, "Oh my God, this is what I left. I left communism. I left socialism."
Yeah.
So that's why, there are no great examples. There are no great role models over in Europe right now.
They've assimilated to the invaders. I mean, they have bent over backwards to accommodate the other cultures that are coming in. I saw that. I lived in Switzerland. I was traveling extensively through France, and I saw what was happening with mosques being put up in every village throughout France. They weren't demanding assimilation on any level, and they still aren't. Right. Right.
And we'll have another time that we can talk about. We can talk about canon law, which is the law that comes out of the Catholic Church out of Rome. We can talk about Sharia law, which is the law of the land for Muslim countries, right? Sharia law, and then we have constitutional law in the United States of America. And when we begin to allow those other forms of laws to dictate, and to be adhered to over constitutional law, folks, we got problems. And we have places in the country, and I mentioned canon law. We had a judge not many years ago. I wrote about it in another book I wrote years ago, trying to use canon law, like a cannon that shoots, canon law to protect a pedophile priest. Okay, and thank goodness for the judge in that case said, "We don't recognize canon law in my court. We use the Constitution." And the priest was found guilty of being a pedophile and given a sentence because our justice system at that time was smart enough to adhere to the Constitution. Well, we have people in this country, we have people in our administration that think, "Oh, it's fine to use Sharia law where there's a predominance of Muslims in parts of the United States of America." Yeah. And we just can't. That's not America. That's another crazy part. That's another part of the geography that we live in. But we have laws, Anyway, I could go on and on.
No, this is good. I took some notes so we can go there on the next show. I want to honor your time here. This is the time for us to bring the show to a close. Before my listeners go, I just do want to remind you that we are listener supported here at Mary Grace Media. So please go to my website, click on the shopping tab, and take advantage of the America First companies and services that we promote there. It does help us to stay on air, and it also helps you to make better choices with your money, with the services and goods that you bring into your home, including General Flynn's book, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. General Flynn, as we sign off here, again, just thank you so much for being here. And I want to honor you, especially because you had a birthday recently.
Yeah,
so yes, and Christmas baby, there's a meme going around where the wise men are coming to see Jesus, and they're like, we just want to make this clear. This is for your birthday and Christmas.
That's right.
So I'm sure you can relate. But to all my listeners, I just wanted to sing happy birthday to you. So we're going to sing to you, and you can hear them all in listening land. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, America's General. Happy birthday to you.
Mary Grace, you're making me cry.
And just blessings on you. We just want to bless you and pray for Psalm 91 protection over you as you go around this country and as you spend time away from your family, and also just try to be a good father and grandfather and husband. It's not easy, the sacrifices that you're making. And so we want to honor that and acknowledge it. And I want to give you the last word to speak to our audience. Just what are two pieces of hope that people can hold on to and take with them into this new year as we really resolve to save this country?
Yeah. I think one important piece, and thank you so much. And for your listeners, thank you guys for all that you do for Mary Grace, and take her emails or whatever and send them out to your other friends to tell them to help her do what Mary is doing. I think if people look at my story, okay, and they see what happened to me and my family, not just this didn't happen to just Mike Flynn, this happened to my entire family, not just my wife and my children and my grandchildren, but my entire family. I have a large, large family. So if people can see what happened, and they can see that me and my family weren't about to give up. We didn't give up. We didn't succumb to the anarchy and the tyranny that we faced by our own government. Although there were some difficult moments, then I think that gives hope to a lot of people that that there's still fight left in every single one of us, right? And there is fight left in me, and I hope that energy and that drive and that determination and that passion comes across to others to say, okay, if this guy can go through what he went through and his family can go through all this, we can do this, right? I can do more. That's number one. The second thing is that I want people to go back, and I want them to take a few minutes to read. It only takes about 3 minutes to read the Declaration of Independence, right? Particularly the first couple of paragraphs where we talk about our Creator, and we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then reread the first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights. Just reread those, particularly focusing on the First Amendment. Most people think the First Amendment is only about free speech. There's actually 5 components of the First Amendment. So go back and reread the Bill of Rights, just the first 10 amendments, and go back and read for the first time the Declaration of Independence. They will give you inspiration that the founders discovered in themselves, 250 years ago. And if they can find that kind of inspiration in them during one of the most trying times that our country was being founded upon, then we should be able to find it in ourselves today. And that's how I just leave everybody with that. So God bless you, and thank you. And to your audience, please go and support Mary Grace. That's how, these are the voices of the voiceless out there. And Mary, you do a wonderful job. Thank you.
And as I said, you have an open invitation to be back on the show. And everybody in the chat is wishing you a happy birthday. So,
thank you.
Happy birthday. Thank you, General. We'll see you back here this week for more live shows right here on Mary Grace Media. Have a great day, everybody, and get to work. Get to the petition, read, do the homework, do your homework, guys. Buy the books. do your homework, and get action oriented. Take care, General Flynn.